everyone, my name is Milla, and today we're going to be doing my summer reads wrap-up. And the reason why I'm doing a summer reads wrap-up instead of a July wrap-up or a June wrap-up or a summer biannual bibliothon wrap-up or a booktubeathon wrap-up is just because there have been so many things going on this summer. I took part in 2 readathons, so I'm doing one huge video about all the books that I've read this summer. I've been really proud of my reading these past 2 months because at the end of the school year I really didn't get to read at all. I'd maybe listen to a couple audiobooks, but I'd never have time to physically pick up a book and just read. But lately I've had more time and I've just been reading so much more and it's amazing. And I'm so happy because now I have the chance to read so many books I've been planning on reading for so long now, that I've been putting off, that I've been meaning to read, that I just didn't have time for, and now I get to read all the books. And I'm so excited to show you guys all the books that I've read because I've read some fantastic ones this summer and I've had new favorites and all the things. The first book I read this summer was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I actually started this May, but I didn't end up getting to finish it until mid-June. I absolutely love this book. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. In fact, I love it so much that I've actually read it twice already. Yeah. I absolutely love how in the first book, ACOTAR, we really didn't get to see much of the other courts because it primarily took place in 2 places in this world. But in this book, we got to see so much more culture and so much more world building, and it was just done so beautifully. It was so vivid and rich, and it didn't weigh down the book at all like a lot of world building in fantasy books often do, which is something that I really admired about the writing in this book. Also, the characters were phenomenal. I love the new characters so much. I can't even think about which one's my favorite. Is it Cassian? Is it Azriel? Is it Mor? Is it Amryn? I don't know. I love them all so much. I just want them to be safe and happy forever. Is that possible? If you're hesitant about reading Akamath after reading ACOTAR, I highly recommend that you do this. I think this book is just so much better than ACOTAR. Even though it's a bigger book, it's much more quick paced and the writing just flows beautifully. I love it. If you guys didn't guess already, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read A Gathering of Shadows by Victoria Schwab. As you guys might know, lately I've been obsessing over Victoria Schwab. She's just one of the most sweet and awesome authors out there that I have met, and I just love the way that she talks about writing and talks about her book. All of them are really captivating. This one is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic, if you didn't know, and I loved A Darker Shade of Magic, but this book, for some reason I found this book a little bit slower than A Darker Shade of Magic, but I actually liked it better. There was a lot of action and tension between characters and rivalries and all this drama and action and romance and just all this beautiful, wonderful stuff that I love in books. I give this book a 4 to 5 stars on Goodreads, primarily because I did find it slow in the beginning, but then once I got into it, it was really fast-paced and intriguing. Also this summer I read Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz, and I was so excited going into this book because I remember a couple years back or whenever it was published, there was so much hype surrounding this book, and I just love the synopsis. It's about these Disney villains who have been placed on an island to keep them away from the heroes, which is where the heroes have placed them, so they're kind of just divided, and then there's a whole thing about, do these 2 groups of people really belong separated from each other? And do the children of the evil villains really deserve to be treated like that, or deserve to be living on an island for evil people, even though they personally have done nothing themselves? And because I was so captivated and had such high expectations because of the synopsis, I was kind of disappointed with this book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. My problem with it was that I really didn't like the characters. The first chapter was phenomenal and I loved it so much, and then as we got more and more into the book, I started zoning out and just like skimming the book. I really wasn't that into it, and I think it could have gone in so many other directions to make the plot better. But the one thing that I truly loved about this book was all the Disney references. I love Disney, and just seeing all those references in one place was so amazing. I started fangirling over everything. Also this summer I read Zenith by Lindsay Cummings and Sasha Alsberg. You guys have probably heard of Zenith, but if you haven't, it's about this group of space pirates. And I really enjoyed this book, even though it's only a small section of the actual book. It was action-packed. I really enjoyed the writing. It greatly exceeded my expectations. I went into this book not really knowing what to expect and kind of with lower expectations, but this book blew my mind. I just loved how action-packed it was, and the writing, it was amazing. And I genuinely think it deserves 5 out of 5 stars. Next this summer I read Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I've been meaning to read this book for so long now, ever since I went to an Alexandra Bracken sighting back in January. And I started this book when I first got it, but then I was kind of in a reading slump, so I didn't want to continue it. But then I picked it up for the biannual bibliothon, and this book, let me tell you, it's fantastic. It's a little bit slow in the beginning, but once you get into it, so action-packed and amazing. It kept me on the edge of my seat because so many things happened that I wasn't expecting, and it was just so good, so good. If you guys do not know what it's about this violin prodigy, Etta, who lives in modern day society, and this boy, Nicholas, who I believe is in the 17th century. I I just really like the things that were talked about in this book. I think they were phenomenally done. And the way it ended made me so excited for Wayfarer. I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read one of my most anticipated books of this year, Furthermore by Tahereh Mafi. I give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. There were two main things that I absolutely loved about this book. One is the writing style. Tahereh Mafi's writing style just flowed beautifully. It was so peculiar and elegant. And the second thing is the world. The world in this book is so strange and I love it. It's very vibrant and colorful. This book contains everything that you would never think of. That sounds really general, but I don't know how else to describe it. And I really love that about this book. What I did not enjoy so much about this book is the characters. I had a lot of trouble connecting to these characters. I do not believe it's because of their age and because this is a middle grade book, because I read middle grade books all the time and I have no problem connecting to those characters. However, for some reason in this book, I just did not connect with them. Yes, I was rooting for Alice the whole time and I liked Oliver enough. I just didn't feel that attached to them, and just some of the decisions they made, I didn't understand why they made them, and I was kind of frustrated in that sense. But what really kept me reading this book was definitely the plot and definitely the world building, because both are phenomenal. Next up, I read Fairest by Marissa Meyer. If you guys do not know what Fairest is, it's a prequel to the Lunar Chronicles series, which is basically fairy tale retellings in space, in the future. One of my favorite parts about the Lunar Chronicles is Queen Lavanna, which is the protagonist in this book. So this book follows Queen Lavanna as she's growing up, and her backstory and how she became the way she is in the Lunar Chronicles, which I was so excited to see when I was going into reading this book. However, I was actually kind of disappointed by this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which, I mean, I enjoyed this book. I didn't love it, but I really enjoyed learning about Lavanna's past. It was frustrating in the sense that she made all the wrong decisions, which is also the reason why plot was so intense, why I was so intrigued by the plot, because why would you do all these things? How could you turn out this way? Which kept me intrigued with the book, but even though I enjoyed the storyline, I wasn't captivated by it. And that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Next up is a book that I read for the Booktubeathon, and it's actually the first YA book that I've ever read, The Hunger Games! It's been so long since I read this book. I've always loved the story of The Hunger Games, and it was amazing to read it a second time around because this is the first YA book that I've ever read, and it had me wondering, I wonder if my perspective on it will change now that I've read so many other YA books. But no, I loved it just as much, if not more. Next up is a book that I actually read for the biannual bibliothon, and it's actually the first ever arc that I've ever read, and that is I-Ling. This book comes out in December, and I was so excited for this book because the synopsis for this book is beautiful. It's about this girl, Lorna, who has a sister, Callie. Callie is a little bit different from other teens in the sense that she was found as an infant on an Arctic island, and she never could speak, and she has these frightening episodes in which she has to go to the hospital, and there's something really suspicious going on when Callie is taken to the hospital, and all of a sudden, Callie starts acting funny, and she begins to understand how to communicate her wishes to Lorna without actually speaking, and Lorna realizes what her sister truly wants and what will make her better, to return to the Arctic island. And so Lorna makes it her own responsibility to finally do something that she knows her sister wants and she knows will help her sister, and take her to the island. However, things do not go as planned, and chaos unravels. I was so excited going into this book, but I actually ended up not really enjoying it that much. At first, I really loved the main character, Lorna. She's very driven and very passionate person, but then as the story went along, she kind of turned into this new person that wasn't as passionate, and I found kind of annoying, and I don't know, I just so confused as to why I didn't feel the same way towards her character as I did in the beginning of the book. She felt like an entirely new character, which is okay in the sense that characters do change, but I just didn't see how she would become this way because of the situations she has been in. And also, I felt like the plot was a little bit jumpy. I thought that the ending of this book was a little bit obvious. There was one thing that highly surprised me, but for the most part, I don't know, I really just didn't enjoy it that much. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. The last full book I've read during the summer is Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. This is a collection of short stories by Marissa Meyer that takes place in the Lunar Chronicles universe, and I enjoyed this book much more than I did Fairest, which is really surprising to me since I was so captivated by Queen Lavanna's story in the Lunar Chronicles. But I just love the short stories in this book, especially the last one. There's something huge that happens in the last one, and it was just having me squealing and laughing and all the feels, you guys, all the feels. I don't want to say what the last one is about because it'll spoil the Lunar Chronicles, but if you read this book and you know what the last one is, you know what I'm talking about. It's so good. and I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I started reading 2 other books. One of them I've been talking about a while, and that is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I'm currently 105 pages into this book. I was reading it during both readathons, but I got distracted by other books and put it down because this book is a really dark book. It's not because I don't love it and I'm not captivated by it. I absolutely love where the story is heading. I absolutely love the characters and the overall plot of this book. It's just that this is such a dark and heavy book. And I'm a mood reader, so I easily pick up and drop books, which is primarily the reason that I started reading the other book that I'm in the middle of, which is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I listened to her book Slammed on audiobook and I absolutely loved it. It was one of the best, if not the best, contemporary book that I've ever read. So lately I've been kind of in a mood for contemporary, so I started reading Maybe Someday, and I was captivated by the story from the very beginning. However, the part that I'm at was highly predictable, so I'm just at the point where I'm just like, okay. I should feel something towards the situation, but I've been preparing myself since the very beginning, since I know this was gonna happen, so I'm not having like this grand reaction. But I'm still enjoying the book. I really love the writing style, and it just has such a unique concept. It's about this girl, Sydney, who lives in an apartment and has her entire life planned out when everything crumbles apart. Her boyfriend starts cheating on her with her best friend, and just all these terrible things start happening to her. But prior to that, in the apartment across the way is this boy who plays music, and slowly the songs that he plays become the soundtrack of her life. It's just such a unique concept. I love the songs in the book. I feel like they really emphasize the plot and what's going on. And no, they aren't just songs in the book, they are actual songs. So if you're reading it on Kindle like I am, there's a hyperlink so you can just click on the song title and it'll take you to a YouTube page where you can listen to the song. It's so cool. I've never read a book like this before and I absolutely love it. But yes, those are all the books that I've been reading this summer. I'm actually really proud of my reading lately because I haven't been able to read this much in such a long time, and it makes me so happy just to be immersed in so many books, in so many worlds, and in meeting so many new characters. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. In the comments below, let me know what you're reading or if you've read any of these books. What do you think about them? Let's discuss them together. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you all are having a lovely day. My name is Milla, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Read this summer, cause I forgot. Thank you, Goodreads, for having my back.